This is the thing that right now a lot of fans right now are going to have their opinions on. And that is the unseen concept art for Transformers Prime. What Transformers Prime would have looked like initially, maybe. This is early concept. What they actually went to was they were going with their binder of revolution, binder of revelation. Yeah, I'm getting tongue tied right now. Let me get some. Let me get a little bit drink of water for talking so much. So this stuff came out. It's kind of cool. It happened on the Slag podcast. Okay, cool. But from what we know, the Transformers Prime earliest concepts was trying to mix G1 with the movies. That was the earliest concepts. They wanted to pull from the Transformers War for Cybertron video game as the basis. And that was what they were initially planning on. They were discussing what they wanted to make for a successful show. It was Ironhide at first before it became Bulkhead. This is what Ironhide would have looked like. Ratchet, you can see he was actually like more based on his movie design. Bumblebee looked like it really was like that cross between G1 and Bayverse. Optimus looked like Optimus, more like Optimus. Megatron looked kind of cool, and Starscream actually looked like Starscream. My wife came in when I was looking at this the first time, and she was like, "Isn't that when Starscream was all of that looked like a weirdo with that stiletto stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "I should have stuck with the old stuff here." So that's what my wife said. She's like, "I didn't like when Starscream looked like that." So, yeah. But this was like their earlier stuff. They were going with the Cybertron games, having like this version of Optimus be like the basis for what Optimus would have looked like on Earth. And they were taking inspiration from that. So, and clearly they were also taking from the comics and the cartoon. They were talking about making Prowl in the cartoon. Smokescreen was going to look like the Subaru, which is why he is the color scheme he is. They basically merged Blue Streak and Smokescreen in a way, and they decided not to go with Prowl, and there was different concepts here. So this was all ideas. And they even wanted Spike, not Jack. Go figure. They would have made Ironhide a wrecker. That's right. They would have probably made Ironhide a wrecker. And humans fighting for Earth, Optimus Prime looking like this. I definitely like this Optimus Prime better than the final product in Transformers Prime. I do. Definitely like this version of Optimus a lot better. The trailer would have transformed into a battle station. That would have been awesome. There's an underwater battle could have happened. Jetpacks that they could have rode. So basically Mask meets Task is basically Mask. It would have been Mask meets G.I. Joe, which is kind of funny because that's exactly what happened in season 3, right? Bumblebee still a sports car instead of a Camaro, but instead of a Volkswagen Beetle, but has that classic Generation 1. I personally like Bumblebee with the roof of the car being his chest and abs. But I don't like the Bayverse legs because that's the thing I hated. I don't like Bumblebee in Prime until he gets his voice. They waited too long to get him his voice back. Just waited too long. This Ratchet, not feeling it. I will say Transformers Prime Ratchet, much better. Much, much, much better. I don't like the green. I never liked the green from the Bayverse. And I see what they're doing with the windshield over the face. I get it. I like the Ratchet we got in Transformers Prime. I actually think that version of Ratchet is a very, very good version of Ratchet with the orange. But I like Transformers Animated better. Like for Ratchet. So, and yeah, Ironhide. This is what we were supposed to have gotten. Ironhide. We ended up getting Bulkhead. So this is what Ironhide would have looked like, but they decided to come in and change it to Bulkhead. So kind of would have liked the idea of Ironhide. It would have. And here's my thing. This take on Ironhide, this is what Ironhide should have looked like in the live action films. Red. The familiar helmet. That's what Ironhide should have looked like in the movies. Or at least similar to that. Even with red. If you want to give the black top kick or whatever, put the red on there. Give him some red. Why can't we get red? We couldn't get a red hot rod, right? We had to get an all black one who's a butler and speaks French, which is so stupid. So, Megatron. I'm indifferent about it. Transformers Prime Megatron, this Megatron, G1 Megatron, it all looks like Megatron. At least it's not the Bayverse look. So, and it was funny because it was this Starscream image that my wife was like, why couldn't they make Starscream look like that? Just brighten the colors up a little bit. You know? Actually make him look like the F-22 jet that he transforms into here. Like, this is Starscream. This is definitively Starscream. And yeah, it kind of does resemble Transformers Reactivate in the way that it looks. Now, this was just a concept on Soundwave. You can see like that they were just discussing this stuff. None of this was ever meant to be final. This was never meant to be what they were going to end up with altogether. This was just initial concept for what they were going to do. Just initial concept, you know? And then they went with a completely different direction. The Transformers Prime team did their own thing. So, and that's just it. It says, discuss what will be needed to make a successful show for everyone, discuss key characters and franchise beasts, discuss various transmedia engagements across formats, and plan for complete integration. All artwork included is in development and should not be viewed as final. And that's the thing. It's not final. So Transformers Prime, I know a lot of people love it. I'm seeing a lot of people have come around with Transformers Prime where they are not as big of fans of Transformers Prime as some people are. Like, some people, like, they're really like, you can't talk bad about Transformers Prime. You're not allowed to talk bad about Transformers Prime. And it's like, look, Transformers Prime has its faults, man. You really have to take a step back and, you know, you really have to take a step back and actually be, you know, I can be critical of G1. I can be critical of the animation errors. I can be critical about the fact that they ended the show and where it never felt like it had an ending, you know, and it made a lot of us older fans really want a continuation, just the same way that Transformers animated fans, their show got canceled because of Transformers Prime. So you get those two fan groups just go at each other. Megatron was turning into a tank, so that's what was on his back. It was just a thing. So, yeah, Prime was as a show, it was enjoyable, but I mean, I had my issues with it. right? I enjoyed some of the humor in it, not all the time. I hated the bland backgrounds that the show had. It definitely had a lot of bland backgrounds. I didn't like the characterization of certain characters. I'll give an example. For Wheeljack in Transformers Prime, to me, is Springer in Wheeljack cosplay. I mean that. It sounds wrong because he looks like Wheeljack. And the character, as the character stands, if you don't know, if you've never experienced a previous version of Wheeljack, you're going to go, I love that character. And I go, I get it, because it's a good character. It's a very good character. He has a lot of good story beats. I just hated his season 3, like, I'm not going to become part of a team kind of thing. And, so like for me, I was like, for that version of Wheeljack, I'm like, I mean, he looks like Wheeljack, but I mean, I really wish that like they actually had the real, like the way that Wheeljack, we know who the character is. But to me, that character felt more like Springer, and he's like a macho guy. He jumps head first in action. He was leader of the Wreckers. At one point was in the comics with Springer. So that's where I feel like I'm like, oh man. Yeah. Okay. So Theremis, YouTube short about why Ironhide was in a video named The Real Reason Was Optimus Had Flames. That's the thing. If you can give me a red truck, right? Even if you're going to give him flames, which I never liked the idea of him having flames in the movie. You couldn't give me Ironhide with red. You couldn't do a single red Autobot. And when you did, it was in the third movie and he never appears again. Come on. Never made sense. Yeah, G1 Wheeljack, man, all the way. And a lot of the more modern interpretations of Wheeljack now have pretty much stuck to that. Except for the fact that he's got the retractable faceplate. But who was it? Who Cyberverse did his character, as a fun character. You had, I believe his character is kind of like, a lot of people like him in was it Earthspark, I think it is. So like more modern interpretations keep Wheeljack as he is. And yeah, RC, when I look at RC in Transformers Prime, I don't see RC, the character, being portrayed as RC. Especially now that my daughter has seen the movie and she loves the way that version of RC comes in the 86 movie. So the RC in Transformers Prime is like this post-traumatic, has constantly looking at her past, and she's always like, has an attitude. So I see that RC as Chromia. If you actually watch the episode, The Search for Alpha Trion, and then you'll see the way that Chromia acts in that episode. And then even if you see how Chromia is portrayed in other media, you might sit there and look at the version of Transformers Prime that when they portray that RC and go, I really can see that that's not really RC, and I get that people like, well, I grew up with Transformers Prime, so to me, G1 RC is an abomination. I should only have Transformers Prime RC and only Transformers Prime Wheeljack. And I'm like, come on, guys. Really honestly think about it. They're reusing a name, reusing a look. Well, in RC's case, just the name. In Wheeljack's case, the look, but not the personality. And it's like, Smokescreen. They took the character of Hot Rod and slapped that onto Smokescreen. Now, those are my complaints. As a show, if you've never seen Transformers before and you watch Transformers Prime, you're going to watch it and go, I like the show and I like these characters. And I go, okay, fine. But understand the history of that character in the franchise before you were born, number one. So when G1 came out and these new characters came out and they existed, And some of us grew up and we grew attached to those characters. We grew attached to them, really attached to them. I grew attached to Hot Rod, to Rodimus Prime. My wife likes RC. My daughter loves RC. So when you see a different interpretation or a different take on a character, in a future series, you're like, what? Doesn't like I can't connect to that character the same way. I don't like that. No, I don't like that new version. You know what I'm saying? And it's not just that RC is the girl. It's that RC is a caring character who was just as capable as everybody else. So she's got that. She cares about other people, or cares about, she cares about Daniel. She cares about Hot Rod. She cares about Springer. She cares about Grimlock. She cares about her fellow Autobots, but she's a fully capable fighter. But she actually cares. Whereas RC in Transformers Prime is like, was willing to go how far against Starscream because of Cliff Jumper, right? She couldn't get over herself. And I can understand that's her character, but that character is not the RC that I know. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like that disconnect between two versions of a character using the same name. You're just like, I can't see that character as RC. So to me, the Generation 1 character is. But I understand. People grew up on Transformers Prime. This is where I don't sit there and I like try to tell people like, you're not allowed to like it. Like, no, just I don't. Understand my point of view. Understand my point of view when I look at a character like that. When new characters come in, though, and when new characters come in and you're like, oh man, I really like that character. Like a lot of people really grew attached to the character of Knockout. A lot of people grew attached to the Transformers animated character of Bulkhead. A lot of people grew attached to Lugnut in Transformers animated, or even now that Slipstream, which was only the name was added after the fact. It was just a female Starscream. You look at those characters and you're like, oh man, like you can really love those new characters. In Transformers Armada, I like the character of Demolisher. He was just a fun Decepticon bad guy. Like I actually really enjoyed that character. Not as much as Cyclonus. I didn't like that version of Cyclonus. But Demolisher I did. Especially his arc in Energon, which I hated the fact that they ended the way that they did, because he had where he's like, I actually care. He was contemplating rejoining the Decepticons with his Decepticon. Like the logo meant so much to me. And I loved that character arc for Demolisher. So, I actually really like that character. Lugnut being this loyal Decepticon, and then you have him arguing with Shockwave, which I thought was great. A great, thing in there. A lot of people loved the banter between Starscream and Knockout. Or Bulkhead would smash something of Ratchet's. Like, I look at the character. I like the Prime version of Bulkhead, but I like the animated one a little more. So, but you can see I'm just talking about different characters here, and it's a matter of like preference, clearly.